So this is the final nightmare, huh? Just like part 4 was the final chapter for Friday the 13th. What else you want to copy from that franchise? You're gonna be in 3D too? This is gonna suck ass. Welcome back to my look at the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Today, Krueger meets his demise in Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. The Dream Child became the first entry in the series to be considered a financial failure. With the well drying up on good ideas for the franchise, including a piss-poor TV series, Freddy's Nightmares, New Line decided that they were going to bring it all to an end. Rachel Talalay, who had been involved with New Line Productions since the first Nightmare movie, was finally given the opportunity to direct. One script they received was written by Peter Jackson. Yes, Peter I Made the Lord of the Rings Jackson turned in a script that would be the Elm Street finale.
Peter and his, he had a writing partner at that time named Danny Mulheron. The two of them wrote a script. His conception, Freddy is this kind of tired, decrepit figure. No one takes him seriously anymore. In fact, in the ultimate sort of insult, kids like put themselves to sleep like with laughing gas or like sleeping pills just so they can go and like kick him and beat on him, kind of Clockwork Orange style. At one point, you know, Freddy sort of manages to kill one of these kids, you know, just enough to kind of get some energy back. And there's a cop. He gets involved in a fire in a house and is sort of knocked out and ends up in a coma. So Peter and Danny were writing this draft, and DeLuca was also writing a draft. Totally different. And that draft became Freddy's Dead.
However, they passed on Jackson's script in favor of one done by Mike DeLuca and Rachel. Boom. First mistake right there. They didn't bring back any returning characters and opted to focus on a group of disturbed young teens, because we haven't seen that before, and Freddy's attempt to reach more souls and a long-lost child he had. They also chose to make the final 15 minutes a 3D experience. Cool. This was supposed to be the ultimate ending for a character in series that had become so iconic in just a few years. Would this conclusion live up to the hype? Let's find out. The movie begins 10 years in the future with some Oregon Trail looking computer graphics noting that all the children of Springwood have died except for one. Oh, is it Alice or her son Jacob? No, their fates are ignored entirely to focus on this guy on a plane who simply goes by John Doe. A little girl lets him know that he is going to make him help him because he's the last. Suddenly he's ejected from the airplane but wakes up from his nightmare only to discover he's still dreaming as his house falls from the sky.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little soul too!
This is gonna be Freddy at his absolute worst, isn't it? I mean, how do we go from this
This is God.
to this?
No screaming while the bus is in motion!
So John is knocked out of Springwood to another town because Freddy is unable to leave. He orders him to fetch new souls, but the fall caused John to crack his head, giving him amnesia. Jump to a nearby troubled youth center where we meet the video game pot-addicted Spencer, whose overbearing dad wants him to be more like him, which according to Spencer is a date-raping athlete. One of the doctors, Maggie, tries to comfort him even after a supervisor found a pipe bomb he made. Remember that for later, folks, because why else would the movie introduce an explosive somehow constructed by a teenager? We then meet Tracy, the aggressive kickboxer with emotional issues, and Carlos, who is really only there not because he's troubled, but because he's hearing impaired. They, along with Spencer, are planning on breaking out and running away to California, where they'll gladly be accepted for the broke, problematic kids they are. Maggie meets up with the therapist, Doc, who conveniently studies dream therapy similar to Nancy in Part 3, and provides a new reason as to why Freddy has the power that he does.
These are ancient dream demons. They roam the dreams of the living till they find the most evil, twisted human imaginable. Then they give them the power to cross the line.
So forget that pure vengeance being the driving force behind Freddy, it's just dream demon worms. Thank you, Final Nightmare, for clearing that up. John Doe is brought to the center by the police, and Maggie tries to get down to the bottom of his sudden appearance. The only clues to who he is that he knows he has to stay awake or else he'll die, and a newspaper clipping of a missing woman named Loretta Krueger. Later, Maggie has a dream about the little girl from earlier playing with her faceless father, but a woman woman's scream wakes her up. Oh boy, I can't imagine what is being implied here. Less foreshadowing and more like being bashed over the head with a frying pan. Maggie finds out John is dreaming of the same little girl, that sounded wrong, and tells Doc about it since he's the dream expert. He suggests they investigate Springwood to see how their dreams could be connected. So she and John take a trip, but after almost running over the non-existent little girl in the road, they discover Tracy, Spencer, and Carlos were hiding in the back. They ride along with them to Springwood, where a creepy fair is taking place with no kids and insane parents.
Oh, what beautiful, adorable children! Would you like to come and live with us? It's been so long since we've had children in the house.
Do not go home with Roseanne, kids. She gets her hands on some Ambien and she'll spew out some hateful shit. While Maggie and John do their investigating, the other three take the van to leave the town, but end up going in circles. Carlos tries to check the map, but it ends up being just as big as a CVS pharmacy receipt.
Carlos! I asked you for the map.
What? Yeah, well, the map says we're fucked.
Meanwhile, Maggie and John end up at Springwood High School, where the crazy rantings of the only teacher there reveal that Freddy had a child that was taken away from him and stuck in an orphanage. Gee, I wonder who it could have been. The runaway gang is tired of driving in circles and take refuge for the night in an abandoned house that turns out to be 1428 Elm Street. Carlos is the first one to go to sleep, finding himself attacked by none other than Freddy with a Q-tip that pokes through his head and pops out his hearing aid. Unable to hear anything, Freddy messes with Carlos for a bit before returning his aid back to him, but it turns into a super gross hearing aid that amplifies all sound. Freddy's shenanigans continue as he drops a bunch of pins from super high up before scraping his nails against a chalkboard.
Nice hearing from you, Carlos.
Fuck you. Neat death nearly ruined by an awful punchline. Unable to find Carlos, Tracy goes looking for him while Spencer is stoned off his ass on the couch. Maggie and John make it to the Springwood orphanage where the owner is unable to give out the information on who Freddy's child was, but a drawing leads to some conclusions.
Hey, Kruger. Could mean anything from Kevin to Kyle.
All it really means is there was a child here by that name.
No, it's me.
Well, that solves that conundrum. No way will there be a big twist involving that little dream girl running around. Back at the house, Spencer is still high, and we get a Johnny Depp cameo as Freddy interrupts his brain on drugs PSA. Spencer gets sucked into the TV as Inagata-Davida plays in the background. He's now in a video game being controlled by Freddy.
Now I'm playing with power.
I'm willing to bet that if you tried this joke today, Freddy would be whoring out his shitty Twitch channel. The other three arrive in time to see Spencer being thrown around the house with absurd cartoon noises emphasizing the beating taking place. John and Tracy are able to enter Spencer's dream, apparently taking over the dream powers that Kristen and Alice had, find Freddy, and unplug his control over the game.
Get out of here now, please. Now.
Hey, you forgot the power glove.
I hate the power glove. It's so bad. And oh my god, Spencer falls into a pit and has his soul stolen by Freddy. Tracy is woken up by Maggie, but John is still out cold, so they throw him in the back of the van to head home. He's having more dreams about flying houses, but he jumps out, activating his parachute that has Freddy floating inside. John claims Kruger won't kill him because he's his son, but Freddy reveals he used him to reunite him with his daughter. Wonder who she is! John is then cut loose to fall to his death. Freddy is a fucking cartoon at this point, literally ripping off a Looney Tunes Roadrunner gag. Glad the final nightmare chose to make a complete mockery of its once evil villain. John falls on the spikes, but with his dying breath tells Maggie, it's not a boy. Careful, it's 2020. Can't go assuming their gender, John. Freddy then somehow materializes into Maggie's head. If you haven't caught on by now, she's his daughter. Back at the youth center, Maggie tries to explain to her advisor what happened, but he has no idea what or who she's talking about because they never had anyone there named Spencer, Carlos, or John. Doc remembers them, but suggests that they weren't just killed, but erased. So now Freddy can just erase people's entire existence. How is it that what he can and cannot do change dramatically every movie? Maggie returns home and discovers adoption papers, giving her the incentive to force herself to sleep and find out the truth.
I won't tell.
She was actually Catherine Kruger, the little girl peering throughout, and is Freddy's kid. A surprise that no one saw coming except anyone who has half a brain. Maggie's mom found Freddy's secret room filled with different weapons and other gross shit that he kept from his murders, so he killed her immediately. Maggie also discovered the room as a kid, leading to Freddy revealing more of their history.
They took you away from me. But I made them pay. I took all their children.
So he came back to kill all the children because they took his child away. First off, Freddy, you took the lives of the Springwood kids first, so you deserve to have yours at least removed from your care. And second, does all this info mean he didn't return due to his overwhelming rage at the parents that burned him alive? To me, it does, and it's probably one of the worst retcons ever. Tracy has an uncomfortable dream that she's back in her abusive home along with her gross, perverted father. She beats the hell out of him, but of course it's Freddy messing with her. She then wakes herself up by burning her arms. Doc also has a brief encounter with Freddy, attempting to fight back, but Krueger knows he's unkillable, even going over past attempts at his life.
First, they tried burning me. Then, they tried burying me. But I just keep on ticking.
Well, Doc wakes up, and after dragging out a piece of Freddy's sweater with him, he has the genius idea that they drag him out of the dream world and into the real world to finally kill him. Oh, you mean what Nancy did in the original? That's your ultimate plan on ending him once and for all? Why don't you try asking Nancy how that went? Oh, you can't cause she's dead. But oh, he provides Maggie with 3D glasses because for some reason they help her enter Freddy's mind. Through them, she sees him as a psychotic kid killing a hamster, a teenager that was beaten by his stepdad, Alice Cooper. Yes, seriously. And the night he was burned by the parents of Elm Street.
We know what you want.
I want it all!
Of course you do.
Then open up.
And you shall be
Forever!
Dear God, you've ruined the mystique of Krueger with the fell swoop of 3 sperm skull dream demons. Maggie grabs a hold of Freddy and appears to exit the dream with him, but he's nowhere to be found. After collecting some weapons in 3D, he's found in his human form weeping over how his daughter was taken from him. But it's all a trick to lock Maggie in with him and kill her. Only problem is he gets the shit kicked out of him, even getting stabbed by his own gloves and getting one of those pipe bombs from earlier stuck in his chest.
Kids.
And that is the death of Freddy Krueger. Get fucked. My overall thoughts on Freddy's Dead: this is a wet, smelly turd. For some reason, it feels like for the most part, it ignores a lot of what came before it. Originally, Freddy came back through the sheer power of vengeance to kill all the children of Elm Street after their parents burned him alive. His whole goal was to eliminate all the Elm Street kids, but of course he used Alice to get to a few new people. Now he's wiped out not just Elm Street, but the entire population of Springwood's children. No explanation as to the whereabouts of Alice, Yvonne, and Jacob, or how Freddy came back and killed all those kids after 10 years. Oh, and he was also given the power by 3 stupid worm dream demons that night he was burned and really wanted to take away all the children because his child was taken away. How do you take a simple origin and motive from the original and completely twist it into something utterly idiotic? Speaking of idiots, Freddy is the most unbearable in this entry, hands down. He has become a goofy shadow of his former self. Fear? Out the window so he can crack stupid jokes while messing around with the teenagers. Now he's a cartoon character, looking into the camera while trying to be funny and making sarcastic comments before and after killing people. It's annoying to an extreme level and makes you dream of the maniacal Freddy days. Pun intended. The makeup on Robert Englund is also the worst. It doesn't look even semi-believable like previous movies. Here it looks like poorly colored Play-Doh that was shaped around his face. And the way he was finally defeated is moronic. Oh hey, did you know we can drag him out of our dreams and kill him then? Yes we did. It didn't work. Dream Warriors had the absolute best defeat of Freddy after laying him to rest in holy ground. Even 4 and 5 had better Freddy deaths that would have worked better as his finale. Nope. Just drag him out and blow him up with a bomb to release the dream demons possessing him. Fuck you. This is my least favorite cast as well. I don't really care for any of the characters, even Freddy's long-lost daughter Maggie or Catherine Krueger. Lisa Zane just has little emotion throughout, and when she's trying, it's clearly forced, not believable, and honestly awkward. Then there's Doc, who has no business being there other than to set up the bullshit dream demons. The new teenagers are the most forgettable. Carlos is the only one who even gets a cool death. The rest are boring. Spencer bouncing around the house and getting killed in a video game is cringe, and Tracy gets an uncomfortable nightmare that she manages to escape. Alright? Giving John Doe the subplot that he could be Freddy's son is also unnecessary. It's blatantly obvious that Maggie will end up being revealed as his child, so trying to make us think it could be John feels like an insult to my intelligence. Also, his Spike death is a massive shoulder shrug. It was ruined before it even happened when Freddy did the little Wile E. Coyote shtick. For this to be the final chapter in the canon of Nightmare on Elm Street, entry is such a middle finger to the fans of the series and Freddy character. And making those last 15 minutes 3D, get your cheap gimmick the hell out of here. Either go big or go home like Friday the 13th Part 3, you chumps. I've got nothing left to say. There's one cool death, but the remaining 95% is garbage with an insufferable Freddy, the weakest cast of characters, foolish retcons, and a poor excuse for a final death of an iconic character. I give Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare half a Power Glove out of 5. But let me know your thoughts. Please explain to me your reasoning if you genuinely like this entry. If it's not your worst in the series, I need great reasonings as to why it's not and what is the worst. Don't forget to subscribe and follow my Twitter and Instagram. You can find those links in the description below. Next week, Wes Craven returns to redeem the franchise in New Nightmare. Until next time, peace.